Hello people, name's Cookie, welcome to Chapter 8, Jordan's Broadcasting. Saturday, January 31st, 1998. Yesterday, the party met Dmitri Pertishu and Vsevolod Servini, reacquainted themselves with Leslie Cutter, fought off another attack from a Sabbat pack, and ended up giving the petite vampire to the Tzimisce a Tarkus. Along the way, Joseph's non-denomination church attracted even more attention from spectators. Craig and Rayan had to spend a few hours answering questions, even though they didn't see much of anything. Meanwhile, Marcus is laying in bed, recovering from his ordeal in the subway. Good news! He's full of blood. Bad news! He jumped through the window of a subway. He hasn't healed his injuries yet. Why is he the only one who ever gets hurt in these things?
Good question.
He's just, well, I'm not even gonna say the word. He's just special.
Byron's chilling out in his own haven, dreaming of whatever ambitious patsies dream. He recently had a bit of snag with the Ghoul he contracted, Jermaine Wallace, over Leslie Cutter being delivered to Vsevolod without even so much as a phone call. Perhaps there will be a big conversation to look forward to in the near future about this turn of events. Joseph dreams about as peacefully as a Malkavian can. On the bright side, he's full of VtM, but Leslie Cutter, to the Tzimisce! Dun-dun-dun. Oh, and Jermaine's high on VtM. He's still rocking his +2, temporary dodge to perception, intelligence, and wits, as well as his temporary +1 dot to his disciplines. Also, as he's a human who ends up being awake and sort of attentive during the day, you'll notice that city media has apparently become very curious about Flushing Queens. More specifically, they appear to be taking an interest into all of these curious sorts of events happening in front of a church. Several journalists have published a varying amount of information connecting the dots about a vehicle being stolen for a joyride, which ended up in the northern Bronx, leaving a curious string of coincidences. Joseph, what do your ghouls do when anyone asks about your whereabouts? How do they deflect, particularly when there's a few phone calls as well as visits from journalists as well as police detectives themselves? What's the cover story?
Literally, police are still investigating and no comment.
Okay. How do they respond if police continue to inquire about your whereabouts?
They presume I died in the whoops, the first bomb that went off. The one that destroyed our real estate business.
Okay. Also, before we transition into the night, there's another good regular season game at Madison Square Garden, this time against the Boston Celtics. Not as interesting as the Heat Knicks game several days prior, but it looks like it could be enjoyable to watch. Anyway, nighttime. If you haven't already done so, please subtract a point of blood, kindred. Jermaine, please roll willpower.
It's gonna be good.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be good.
I mean, you fucking have like 9 dice. You can't possibly fail this, right?
9 botches.
Not 9 botches. Looks like 2 successes to me. Alright. Byron, as you are the vampire of the highest humanity, you are the first to rise. What's happening?
Well, I guess I'll call around and see where people want to meet up. Because if I don't know, I'll turn on the news, see what's going on, and if he sees that the church has interest, he probably won't want to go over there, or he'll call up Craig and he'll tell him. So he'll just wait for a call from everyone else, I guess. He'll just cool the jets for an hour.
Okay.
Well, I mean, he can check in with Leslie Cutter, see how the planning thing, because he did a lot of that the night before, I think, so you can see how that happened, but whatever, it doesn't matter.
Wait, repeat that?
Sorry, yeah, I'm not being very clear. When they were moving the business to that apartment building we used, and I think that's what he did, the final thing he did after talking with Jermaine, wasn't that last session he went over and help deal with that, or was that the previous session? I'm getting them all confused. But he'll check in with Evelyn. Did I say Leslie? I meant Evelyn.
You did say Leslie. That's why I asked you to repeat that for me.
Yeah, sorry. Mixing up the girls. I do that a lot. All right. So, Evelyn.
It's not a good habit.
No, it gets me in trouble a lot. But yeah, I'm bad with names.
Right.
I
I actually went ahead and I already marked that on the Astoria Hideaway object. If you end up clicking on that, it's going to take a long time for the things to get transferred over, but it's in the process of happening.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much all Byron has to do. I mean, he's just going to wait because he wants to get the group together and talk about Jermaine's shenanigans the night before. That's his agenda.
All right, Marcus, you rise, having shaken off that drunken stupor that you ended up going to sleep with. You're still, of course, injured. There's a message on the answering machine. It appears to be from Joseph.
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 Well, I'm gonna heal first. Is that 1-to-1 or is it 1-to-2? I forget.
It's 1-to-1.
Alrighty then, I'm just gonna heal that really quickly before I answer this phone.
All right. Well, just pick up the answering machine message. It's dated from back way early in the morning. Apparently, Joseph was calling to out of concern of where Leslie Cutter could possibly be. I'm assuming it had something to do with Jermaine. That's it, though.
Why the fuck is he calling me? I left before Byron did, so the last person who saw her was Byron and Jermaine. God damn it. Guess I'm gonna have to go to Joseph's church or wherever the fuck we're meeting. Did I actually even get a call about meeting?
Yeah, I would have left you a message.
There's also a message from Byron.
What does the Ventrue want?
Byron apparently is trying to organize another meeting again at Joseph's church, pertaining to events that may have transpired while Marcus was occupied.
I guess I put on a cleaner set of clothes and start making my way to Joseph's church.
All right, Joseph, you arise. Craig and Ryan, of course, inform you that people are apparently very curious about the church now.
I have some plan to deal with it. At the moment, though, I think there's more important matters to attend to. Saying that to him.
Right. Of course, there's apparently a message. I suppose Byron left you one as well about organizing a meeting here at the church. I don't know.
Yeah, I probably talked to Craig or Rain, whoever answered the phone, so they would inform him, I guess.
Yeah, certainly call him back and tell him, come on over, we have things to deal with.
Jermaine, what's up, my brother? What you up to?
I'll probably head on over to the church nice and early.
It appears that Krypsyn took my statement about deleting old tokens to heart, and he didn't copy pasta to replace the other one.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to do. I mean, I had the one that's on the Burrows map, but
You just Control-C and Control-V.
Well, that's obvious.
Ta-da! I suppose I can take care of it for you.
Yeah, I did it wrong, so whatever.
It's fine, it's fine. There, you teleported in. Good job. Do I need to set this up for you, how going to a church looks, or what? You four can handle this. Describe yourselves and your arrivals, and communicate, as is your birthright.
Well, I'm assuming Byron got here first, well, besides Joseph, because Joseph never left. So Byron and Joseph have a chance to talk.
And Jermaine is already there because he said he got there bright and early at night. So I guess I will nod at Jermaine, but I won't meet his eyes, and I'll walk over to Joseph and just, I don't know, sigh or whatever.
Well, Joseph has a new wardrobe. He's now wearing hoodies and slacks and things that just hide who he is, but still fairly obviously annoyed at the happenings of last night.
And I'm just going to be waiting calmly.
You guys gonna talk about anything?
I guess Byron will say, hey, Joseph, how was your night? I'm just very dry,
Eventful.
Seems we've been having a lot of those lately.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yes?
As the Chinese say, may we live in interesting times.
That is the exact opposite of the Chinese proverb.
Well, it's the curse. May you live in interesting times. So,
Joseph's head's probably just cocked all to the side at you, like, no.
The fuck you say?
well,
This is why you're the
Byron said
bad
it
side.
derisively. He wasn't like saying it was awesome.
Speaking of Joseph, I'm just gonna ignore that. I'm gonna pretend you didn't say that.
So Joseph, what are your ghouls doing today? Anything exciting?
I'm assuming they're busy just sort of answering questions, police, doing normal church stuff. I don't know what pastors do on their off days,
Okay.
but I'm hoping their lives aren't as exciting as ours.
Fine. Marcus arrives.
Marcus looks like he's actually wearing, clean clothes that he hasn't probably worn in like years before.
Does Marcus wear a jacket perhaps to better blend in even though he doesn't need it to protect himself from the cold?
Yeah, probably does. What the
Alright.
hell is
Give him a
up?
nod.
What the fuck is going on? Because I had a nice evening. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, Byron will glance at Marcus and see the scuffs and bruises. Say, hey, rough night.
There's no scuffs and bruises on Marcus. He healed everything.
Oh, he did. I didn't hear that. Okay. All right. Well, then I guess Byron will just nod to him.
I was told there was something we have to talk about.
Yes. Jermaine seems to have taken matters into his own hands last night without consulting us. I'll let him describe what he did last night, and he'll just gesture at Jermaine and let him go, unless anyone else wants to break in.
Leslie Cutter asked to be driven to Central Park to be dropped off with the Samitsi, and I did. I didn't call anyone first, and I apologize for that.
Byron will nod. Yes, that is the short of it. I do remember upon our first meeting with Sevalod that he did offer you a thing or two if you brought the girl in. What did you get out of it?
I got a sample of his vitae.
And was that the end of it? Because I remember he said there might be some follow-up missions and that type of thing if you wanted to do that. Just curious.
He made an offer, but that's for me, and I haven't done anything towards it yet. And I won't on time where I'm working for you.
Byron will nod and he'll look left and right, see if Joseph and Marcus want to add anything, because he's done. Says, all right, that's what I figured.
The last two people with Leslie Cutter were you, Byron, and you, Jermaine, correct?
That is correct. When I left, it was Jermaine alone with Leslie Cutter. I had actually.
What did you tell her?
Well, I chatted with her very briefly, and I told her that she probably did not want to go with Sevalod. I said it's for her to make up her mind. I was just washing my hands of it, but I thought I had given a good argument that that guy was not a nice guy, and she probably wouldn't want to do it. So I left. I was confident she was not going to go to Sevalod, at least not immediately. I was wrong.
And that means someone persuaded her otherwise.
When I went to speak to her, she didn't seem especially convinced by Byron.
I'm more inclined to believe Byron than you, Jermaine, no offense.
I will say that Leslie Cutter asked what action she could take that would solve the most of our problems as possible. And I told her that each decision she made came with some pluses and minuses, but I said I thought I had intimated that it would probably be in her best interests to not go Sevalod. But I did say Sabat was right out. Sevalod's second and first would be going to the Camarilla. That was mine.
Sorry.
I did not say this out loud. I implied it.
I apologize. Interruption here. Question. Jermaine, how did you get to the church today?
Well, I would have driven a car.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Sorry about that.
Fuck.
Continue.
No, Byron's finished. He's done describing it, trying to say that. I mean, he's trying to. I mean, he'll just say, as far as I know, she had not fully made up her mind, but I thought I'd at least convinced her to think more on it.
I said something similar. She wanted more details on what you had already said. I even went so far as to call Sevalod a monster.
Are we all not monsters?
You know what I mean.
Jermaine.
And yet you still took her there. I mean, granted, I don't know that you could have stopped her if that's what she truly wanted, but, he'll shrug.
I actually took the opportunity on the drive to explain in greater detail that she shouldn't trust him and how monstrous he is.
By that time, it's already too late. You'd already given in to her.
She would have walked.
It would have taken her time, and you could have gotten in contact with one of us. Could have gotten in contact with someone.
And I apologize for not getting in contact with one of you.
And on that note...
In fact, I'm willing to offer a major discount on this month's fee because of that oversight on my part.
It's more than just a major oversight. It's also a breach of trust, Jermaine.
Which is why I'm giving you a discount. I work for you. I'm not your friend.
Quite so. I think a discount is very much in order. Whether or not others would like more done, I just don't know what else can be done at this point. So it's a start.
Unless either of you two, he's talking to Byron and Joseph here, have anything you wish of me out of me tonight, I have other plans.
Byron will raise an eyebrow and say, yes, as do I.
I will see you all later tonight unless you need me around at the moment.
All of you, hear a curious thing, and Marcus, this ends up being more curious for you than the others. Your jacket pocket is ringing.
Huh? Wait, I actually... What? I don't have a cell phone.
Well, you might want to answer whatever's in your pocket anyways.
Fine, Dad. I answer the phone.
As it turns out, there is a slim black phone in that. How many dots in intelligence do you have?
I have average intelligence, too.
Go ahead and roll those for me. The 9 and 10, alright. You will recall, and this actually happened during the session, it was a thing that transpired, that when Archon Theo Bell walked past you, leaving the box in Madison Square Garden, he bumped against you. At the time, you absolutely thought nothing of it, but recollecting, perhaps it could have been the bump ended up being this.
Theo Bell, you clever bastard. I'm going to answer it, of course.
You answer it. There are a few things you hear. First off, there's Marcus, and it is Theo Bell's voice. The second is that, far off in the background, it's kind of faint, you hear frantic, pleading for my life, already in pain, please God don't hurt me, screaming.
You seem to be busy, Theo.
Let's just say that my visit to Jersey City has been eventful.
I'm sorry, did I move you back, Krypsyn?
Yeah, at the mention of Theo, Byron is going to walk over because out of character, that was his other business. He wanted to find up either the sheriff or Theo and talk to him. So he's interested.
Well, I'm glad you're having more luck in Jersey City than we are here. What can I do for you?
Luck. There's a pause. And then the sounds of screaming get louder, and then you're pretty confident that were you still living, you might actually become death one of these days, because there's the loud boom of a shotgun, and then the screaming stops. Have you had any luck in finding Leslie Cutter?
You can say that we found her, but developments have occurred that I wish to converse with you and the sheriff, presumably in private.
Yeah, Byron will nod emphatically.
The Archon pauses. I see. Regardless, I was calling in regards to giving you another tip of sorts, as I did earlier this month. The number that was logged rather to the cell phone you found on Mr. Dante Avant. That Jersey area code is apparently a cell phone, that it is currently in New York City right now.
Do you have anything more than just it's in New York City? New York City is a big place.
He laughs. Of course. More specifically, my contact indicates the number is at a self-storage location in the Bronx called Pizarro Self-Storage. It's climate-controlled, if that matters.
Well, I'll look into that.
There is, of course, no rush. It is merely following up on. There's a pause while he scuffs something. There's a wet thud. Following up on it.
Well, I'll look into it if I have time tonight. I have business I think I need to take care of first.
But of course, just wanted to inform you. Do keep me abreast on this Leslie Cutter development, but you would have better chance of getting a hold of Kadir.
Indeed.
The Archon hangs up.
Marcus hangs up and puts the phone back in his jacket pocket. Cell phone get.
Byron will ask, so that was Theo interested in Leslie. What else did he say?
Just another tip that I can look up. But right now I have other things to take care of. I'll tell you about it when I get back.
Byron will look a little put out, but he'll say, all right. I need to head out as well.
And with that, Marcus is going to stand up and walk out of the church.
Okay.
Byron will follow
Before
him
you
out.
go, Jermaine will say to Brian, to Byron, rather. I wanted to discuss the degree of the discount. I'm willing to offer up to a 75% discount of my normal price because this really was quite an egregious violation of your authority.
Byron will say, seems fair. And then he'll look at Jermaine and say, is there anything else? If not, I do have business I need to attend to.
What's left is something to talk to Joseph about.
Okay. Well, then I guess Marcus and I will leave you two alone. Byron is going to make his way via Metro to Madison Square Garden, see if he can meet up with the sheriff, because that can't go wrong in any way.
That's where Marcus is going as well.
All right.
I figured. So we might meet each
That's
other
what
at the entrance if you want.
I like it. Maybe it's just like you both step outside. Marcus into look at Byron. Going to the sheriff? I was like, yeah.
Right.
Or they both like nod at each other like they're about to go in different directions. They start walking in the same direction.
It's like one of those parting things like, well, we'll go ahead and split up at the Metro. You guys ride the same Metro things. All right, I can dig that. You two are out, leaving Jermaine and Joseph. How does Joseph feel?
At this point, more annoyed, a little calmer.
Okay. How does Jermaine feel?
Mostly calm, ready for shit to go wrong if it goes wrong. He's dealt with vampires before.
All right.
At any moment, shit could get real. You know, David style. I want to go over what all you do and don't want me to do, so that I don't upset you in the future. If that's okay with you.
The short is, each of the three of us wants just as much to be the person in power. You know as well as anyone, probably better than any of the three of us, that vampires are all about having control. And what you did was, despite being our employee, take the control away from us.
Right. And for that, I am terribly sorry. And it will not happen again. But I'm talking more for you. You seemed, much more than the others, to have a very strong moral objection to what I did. And I'd like to talk about that so that we don't have any baggage preventing us from working together.
Well, the short is that I know that we still have souls. I'm sure that we can consume them. The Demetsi showed me that. Just seeing the way he talks, the way he is, I know what it's like to taste another person's soul. So, when I see her going over there, I know what he may be doing to her soul.
So aside from the work that I do for you already, you'd prefer if I protected people?
Yes, it's... I like to make sure everybody's safe. Everybody I know, everybody I see as under my protection. Perhaps I'm too much of an idealist, but it's the way I am.
Jermaine will think about that for then extend his hand and say, I can't promise that will be my top priority, but I promise to give it plenty of thought before I make any decisions while working for you in the future. I apologize for not having done it to begin with. I'm glad we have it out in the open now, though.
Joseph will wait a few seconds looking at your hand, then take it and say, that's more than I can say for most people I deal with.
Now, is there anything you want me to do tonight? I know that you're missing a car. I know that the church is currently under scrutiny. I might be able to do something for you.
I should be able to handle the scrutiny, and I'm waiting on the insurance money for the car. Strange how tied we are to those things, those mortal things still. But it's the way it is.
I would like both of you to give me Perception plus Alertness at difficulty 6, please. Looks like 4 successes from you. And 4 successes from Joseph.
Unless tactical applies, then it's 5.
No. With 4 successes, both you hear a lot of noise coming from both the front and the back of the church. There's a lot of police sirens, as well as cars quickly driving up.
Step behind the podium and obfuscate.
Great.
What do you want to do, Jermaine?
I don't know of any good back way out, do I?
No, and it sounds like they've come from basically all angles.
Sorry, Jermaine, meat bus.
Yeah, I get it. I guess I'll go take a seat at the...
Okay. Go ahead and move your token, Sean, to be behind wherever you are and obfuscated.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's supposed to be the podium itself where it
Yeah.
takes from. Yeah, I'm standing right behind there.
Okay, that's fine. Both of the doors of the church slam open. And 8 people stream in, hands drawn. You've got 6 guys in uniform and 2 other gentlemen as well. Joseph being obfuscated, the 2 gentlemen appear to be both wearing trench coats. Not exactly in uniform, but considering the way they're moving, they both appear to be detectives. They both end up stopping and spread out, and all the guns end up being trained at Jermaine. Police! Put your hands in the air! Step away from the pew!
I put my hands in the air and step away from the pew. I'll point out where I have weapons on my body, too.
Alright. Get down on the ground!
I get down on the ground. I've been through this before.
Okay. They end up swarming you and handcuffing you, while others go to the other officers end up investigating and combing through the other various areas of the church. The two folks who are not in uniform end up approaching you while you've been detained, and as one of the officers ends up reading you your rights. Describe more. The guy with the red halo is fairly tall, hovering around 6 feet, with hard eyes set in a craggy face. Somewhere in his mid-50s, he's a man who might have seen it all after a few decades on the force. His posture is straight, and how he carries himself suggests former service in the military. Beneath the trench coat is a bulky physique, not as defined as it used to be, that there are still signs of musculature. He smells of cigar smoke, and he's putting his gun away. The guy with the green halo is only a few inches above 5 feet, with a wide, generous mouth and beaming, expressive eyes. Whereas Sam looks like a hardened veteran, Tom doesn't look like he's lived past 30. He has a wiry frame, and when he speaks, his hands gesticulate in order to better convey his meaning. Unlike his counterpart, Tom looks very athletic, although that'd never come into question, not with his friendly countenance. Right? The guy with the red halo, Sam, approaches you. I'm Detective Sam Bogart. This is Detective Tom Bond. Are you Jermaine Wallace?
I am.
Is that your vehicle outside, Mr. Wallace?
It is.
Indeed. You are under arrest for suspicion of being involved with, and he lists off a varying amount of charges. Apparently this vehicle was identified at the scene of the crime yesterday, whenever there was a shootout taking place in front of the church. And, after reading out those charges, and say you're coming with us. But one more thing before we go. Do you know the whereabouts of one Mr. Joseph Cheung?
I'm trying to think of how to answer this.
Considering how much Jermaine knows and doesn't know about the situation.
I'm just going to say...
I see. Well, we'll have something to talk about down at the precinct. And they take you. And you are, with your handcuff, you are stuffed in the back of a police cruiser. There's a tow truck pulling away your car.
I'm going to get hit with some fines later.
And, there's Joseph. They're alone. Okay, go ahead.
Because some of those are illegal.
Yep. There's Joseph there, all alone in his church. The 8 officers have streamed out. The 6 uniformed, as well as the 2 plainclothes detectives. And there's the sound of vehicles roaring off as Jermaine is led away in handcuffs. Anything from you, Sean?
No, he's just standing there. He doesn't know what to do at this point.
He's going to stand there all night.
No. Yeah, apparently the officers were at least interested in you at some point, and they swept through the entire area looking for other things as well. It seems that they left fairly quickly, though. It was only.
Did they go into the crazy room?
It's hard telling what they did or not did. If Joseph was standing there, they left after about 15 minutes, but they definitely trampled through everything.
By the way,
I'm just going to throw in there, maybe they didn't see the Nosferatu, because I think they may have said something about that.
But yeah, to bring it up, that's partly why I ended up asking how Jermaine got to the church today.
No, I figured as soon as you asked. By the way, the scoped rifle, the semi-automatic shotgun, and the light pistol are all not registered to Jermaine.
All right. So, what's Joseph going to do? Like, what is he thinking? Is he going to just take some steps, or just going to stand there reflecting on what just transpired?
Well, after about 20 minutes, assuming Rain or Craig don't come up, I'll start going downstairs.
Okay. Turns out that whatever they searched for, they apparently ended up not going into whatever room that David was in, and they weren't asking any more questions or be like, "Oh my God, what the hell is that?" or anything. It's likely that they, given your former training, Joseph, that they ended up someone in the neighborhood noticed the car, recognized it from prior events, and put in a call about it.
Yeah, that's, I'm just glad they didn't dig up a body. Well, saying to Rain and Craig, could have been worse. Could have tried to take one of the three of, us.
Could be worse. Could be raining.
Could be pirates. Your ghouls want to know what your orders are for now. What do you want to be done?
Well, I want them to start spreading a few small rumors about gangs in the area, gang violence, leave some indication that the church is trying to keep violence down. It shouldn't be too difficult to do that. Just talk to a few people about the church actively trying to keep gang violence to a minimum, things like that. Even if people aren't talking about gang violence, if the church is trying to keep it down, they very soon will be. As for Jermaine, nothing at the moment. I want to get in contact with the other two before we figure out what to do about that.
All right. Meanwhile, in Manhattan.
Meanwhile, at the League of Justice.
The Great Hall of the Justice League. The esteemed duo, the Wonder Twins, Byron and Marcus, have headed to Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, I'm going to use a point of blood to flush up, or blush, or whatever they call it.
Okay.
I will use 2, because I'm going to be tonight anyways.
All right. Oh, you did make tokens for them. All right.
Yeah, it took me a moment to figure out how to drop them.
I'll go ahead and get rid of these ghost people then. Okay. Well, as it turns out, Madison Square Garden is a very happening place right now. You currently look at about 10:05 p.m. and the game is in the second half right now. The early third quarter. Lots of foot traffic. Tons of people milling about. Not as many as there was for the Heat-Knicks game, but there's still quite a few.
All right. Well, I assume we came together, or did we come separately? I don't know if we decided that.
Well, regardless of what happened, you two have encountered each other whenever you arrive there. You can determine, if you want to, talk about anything.
All right. Well, Byron is going to, whether he did this all on the way, whenever they met, he's going to say, Sheriff, if you're going to see the sheriff, feel free to do the talking. I think he likes you better. So,
I know, I am a likable guy. It's just, Something about me, it's just so subtle. But anyways, I believe what I'm going to tell him is about the cephalon and Jermaine.
Tell Byron, or you're telling Byron that you're
I'm going to
tell him.
I'm going to be telling Kaldir that.
Yeah, Byron will say, I was going to do the same.
Yes. Now we
And
just
that-
need to find our way into that booth.
Right. As we enter, Byron is going to be sure to put himself between Marcus and that artwork that he is so transfixed by every time they go through.
Oh, come on, man.
I don't know, man. Marcus, go ahead and make a self-control roll, difficulty 6.
Beautiful.
That's a success.
Simply beautiful.
Apparently Byron attempting to put himself between you and the mural reminds you of it. And you manage to not look overly much at it.
We just need to get the sheriff's attention. Because last time we just sort of milled about in here, and then someone came and got us.
Yeah, there was that one guard. I can't remember the description of him. Byron probably wouldn't remember him too well either. But if we could find that guy.
Speak of the devil and he shall appear. Or Sao, or in this case a dark-skinned, several ear-piercing, dressed immaculate in his suit, a security uniformed gentleman who has apparently spotted the two of you and is rather doing a great job of wading his way through the crowd as if he's an expert swimmer, and they are the gentle contours of the sea.
Majestic.
And to approaching you. And he quirks his head, says, "Here for something?"
We need to speak with Kaldir.
He quirks his head and says, "You know, none of you should have difficulty getting into the box at all. It is part of Elysium here. You shouldn't need me. Do you just not remember the steps?"
Oh, we weren't sure. Byron will say, I wasn't sure on the protocol. I didn't know if we needed an escort or not. If not, we shall make our way there. And he'll look to Marcus for confirmation.
Mark is just going to shrug.
Say that the gentleman who before you chuckles and says, "There are guards posted, but I don't think they would be any match for what you can do. This way, please." He begins leading you forward through the various pathways and access ways into the private area, which takes you to the private elevator, which takes you to the private booth with one guard standing by who nods, and the guy who escorted you leaves you at the door. He's off to go do other things. You can hear the crowd and the roar as basketball is being played. And you two can go ahead and make auditory, it's hearing-based, perception plus alertness tests at difficulty 6. 2 successes from Marcus. And 2 successes from Byron. You two hear light laughing coming from the booth on the other side of the door.
Byron will say under his breath, well, at least someone's in a good mood.
Not for long. Marcus will enter first unless Byron has to go in first.
No, he's letting you take lead. He meant it when he said that it's all you. He'll be there for backup if needed, but he's gonna, let you take point.
Looks like this booth here is the box. It's pretty vacant today. No humans spectating, no servers. There's just 2 folks. One of them, of course, is Kadira Asmai, the sheriff of New York City. The other is a figure who possesses the still developing body of a late adolescent, though she carries herself with a striking grace that belies her gangly appearance. A sharp, unsettling gaze, as she rotates her head, peers out from a frame of long chestnut hair, and above a fashionable veil which covers her lower face. Her manner of dress is subtle, an elegant yet unremarkable dress which does little to flatter her. She radiates, however, an aura of quiet menace, of a serpent coiled and poised to strike, and as she slowly stands, it seems as if the air is rippling around her. Kadir, for his part, doesn't react.
Mr. Al-Asamai, there have been some developments in the Leslie Cutter case that you should know about.
The sheriff turns to look at the woman, and they say something to each other. It sounds like Latin, which none of you do not understand. And she leaves, brushing past, and as she does approach closer, that aura of quiet menace that radiates around her becomes more palpable. You actually, Marcus, your auspex ends up scratching underneath your skin, giving you an uneasy feeling of being in close proximity to her.
Marcus will just close his eyes and wait until she goes past.
She brushes past Byron and leaves.
Yeah, Byron will nod politely.
She does not return any sort of polite nod or what have you.
Man, fuck politeness.
Leaving you alone with the sheriff of New York City, who rises, once again wearing a very expensive suit, his fine Swiss watch glinting from his wrist, and that trimmed goatee that adorns his face below his sharp nose, that wide, cruel mouth, which is set into a thin line as the dark eyes, glint with their natural suspicion. The eyes, they focus on Marcus, and they seem to soften a little bit, and then they rotate to look over at Byron. They don't soften so much.
No, Byron will nod politely, and he'll say, "Always a pleasure," and then he won't say anything else. And he'll say it sincerely.
Kadir will turn to look at Marcus. Go on.
Last night, we found Leslie Cutter.
The brows lift in surprise, and the eyes widen a bit.
But this is where the complications come in. Earlier in the evening before we found Leslie Cutter, we were approached by a ghoul by the name of Dimitri. I forget his last name.
I want you to make a willpower roll at difficulty 8 for me, Jordan.
Current willpower or total willpower?
Current willpower.
There you go.
Did a 9. As you begin to speak about this, it's noticeable you do manage to get the words that you're saying, but it is clear that there is some hesitation coming through your throat, as if it's stopping, almost as if you're sort of choking on your own words, trying to pull them back into your throat.
We met a ghoul by the name of Dimitri. Out of character, I don't remember his last names.
Dimitri Patriciu.
I don't know if he told us his last name, but if he did, I'd tell him we met a ghoul by the name of Dimitri Patriciu.
Why does this matter to me, Marcus?
Because he took us to see his master. A vampire by the name of Acephalad Cerveni, whose sire is, I'm going blanking on the name, it's Voyov, I forget the last name, I'm sorry.
It's fine. The Voivode is actually a title.
It's Voivode something or other, and and then his grandsire is one Lombok Ruthin, whose sire is Zamitsi.
The sheriff sort of tilts his head, corking a bit to the side as he watches Marcus, not really showing any reaction, although the brows are still lifted a bit, and he is listening intently.
Well, Marcus probably sounds a bit pained as he talks. Just because
Yes, the effect is actually, with one success, it is continuing the entire time. It is a slow, drawn-out process.
he offered us this Cephalod Cerveni offered us a deal in return for gaining Leslie Cutter to him. We didn't accept the deal outright, but he gave us something to find her. I mean, he gave Jermaine the Ghoul something. And lo and behold, with that something, we found Leslie. She was apparently hiding out in Joseph's church, using some discipline I have never seen before. It was not obfuscate. So apparently Leslie Cutter is not a thin blood. Whatever she is quite powerful. Because Sabat decided to attack at this moment, and Leslie pretty much killed 3 of them herself. The 4 of us helped. I became indisposed due to issues of our kind. And somehow Miss Cutter ended up going to Cephalod Cerveni. I believe our ghoul Jermaine has ulterior motives and took her to him.
Byron, at the mention of you being distracted by, he's going to glance at you semi-surprised.
It's worth noting the entire time, Sheriff is not the only one who's been hearing Marcus slowly talk and push forcefully these words out of his mouth. This is a pained and slow, exacting form of speech that Marcus is doing, almost having to furrow his brows and focus his energies on saying these words.
Byron will say, everything all right there, Marcus? You seem pained somehow.
It's as if every time I try to mention anything that has to do with the cephalod, it's as if I'm being choked.
Seems Cephalod did not trust us as much as perhaps he expressed.
I don't expect a Zamitsi of his power to actually care about trusting anyone.
Byron will nod and he'll go silent again. I mean, he'll say, if it becomes too much trouble, I can try to fill in for you. But I think you're doing a good job. He's not going to say that. You're doing a good job. He's not going to say that.
Doing a good job, Jordan. Good job.
Yeah, don't make me have to talk to the sheriff. Come on.
The reason I believe Jermaine has ulterior motives is when Cephalod was asking if there was anything we would want as a reward for turning in Leslie Cutter, he specifically asked to be sired by him. His words, not mine. Long story short, we found Leslie Cutter, but she was taken to a 6th-generation vampire living underneath New York City. That's what I forgot to tell him. I forgot to tell him he's living under Central Park. My bad.
The sheriff, for his part the entire time. His face does not betray any more reactions as he stands there stoically, and as vampires don't need to breathe, he's pretty much unmoving the entire time, despite the interchange between Byron and Marcus. When Marcus finishes, and I want you to go ahead and roll something for me. I want you to roll... Let me see if I get this right here. I would like for you to roll... There we go. I would like for you to reroll a Charisma plus Etiquette at difficulty 8, Marcus.
No dice.
The sheriff rotates his head. The glower, the baleful eyes setting themselves on the Ventrue. Is there anything you would like to add?
Only that Jermaine is under contract with me personally, and as far as I know, he should be. He is still with our group. If you need to contact him or in some way talk with him. Other than that, I think Marcus did a fine job explaining the situation.
Good job, Byron, taking the blame squarely on your shoulders.
Well, the whole point was that he's saying that he's under contract, so he can go find him if need be. Byron will say, as far as he's concerned, the contract has been breached at this point, although he has not said so to Jermaine. He'll tell that to the sheriff. It's breached. I owe him nothing. If you want him, I can deliver him, or I have nothing against delivering him to you.
No, I just think it's funny that you think that you're not accountable for things that your ghouls did.
Oh yeah, well, Byron, the whole group is.
The sheriff continues to look at Byron as Byron finishes telling this to him. Looks back at Marcos. And actually looks down at his wrist and begins fiddling with his Swiss watch. More specifically, the watch is taken out and put into a pocket, the front coat pocket. So let me see if I got this right. Please feel free to stop me if I understand this incorrectly.
Not going to stop him even if he gets it wrong. Just not going to.
He actually turns his back, and he begins walking back and forth in front of you. So, last night, you in this church of Joseph's, you were approached by some ghoul named Dimitri, whose master is a Tzimisce autarchus named Vsevolod Cerveni, who lives beneath Central Park. So you went there to talk. Why?
Out of character, I actually forgot that. That's my bad. So I'm just going to roll with it in character. Earlier, we had been delivered a compact disc and a laptop. The same disc that made our good friend David become indisposed. Apparently was full of, according to Vsevolod Cerveni, blackmail against us. Stuff that could apparently break the Masquerade.
The brows lower and the pupils narrow at Marcus. break the Masquerade?
By the way, Byron will have visibly winced when Marcus mentioned that.
The incident with David at the municipal building apparently it was all caught on camera, and Mr. Cerveni had the tapes. There was also the Mudsey Hudson incident with the drunk driver. That one is not as serious, but implicates the rest of us outside of David.
Incident. He quirks his head. Explain.
At the behest of Joseph, we decided to check out one of Archbishop Polonia's safe houses up in the Bronx. We went there, poked around a little. After a while, we decided to leave when it got a little late, around 4 a.m. As we were doing so, everyone was a little on edge, and then there was this truck or van came streaming down at high speed down the road. Joseph immediately, for some reason, shot his shotgun at it. And zooming in on Caldera apparently. And the van crashed into the building. I walked over to find out who was driving, and it turned out to just be a drunk driver. I fully intended to leave it at that. Joseph, for some reason, decided to stab the drunk driver in the back of his neck, killing him instantly. After that, we left.
So, this compact disc you were sent that made your Nosferatu friend indisposed, as you put it, contained egregious information of him violating the Masquerade, and the rest of you went along with it because the disc apparently also contained information of... this.
Yes.
I see. He pauses long enough. He begins pacing again. The suit jacket goes off and is placed in this chair. Right. So, let's continue the narrative. You decided to follow this Dimitri Ghoul to Central Park, where apparently, underneath Central Park, beneath all of New York City, there is a Tzimisce who lives, who is not in the Sabbat at all, who is apparently very interested in your coterie, and obtained blackmail information so that he could request of all of you to find this Leslie Cutter and bring her to him.
Yes.
He stops moving. The eyes shift to Byron. Naturally, this would be after the Archon and I requested that you find this Leslie Cutter and bring her to us.
Yes, which was my full intention to do so. And I'll glance at Marcus. I assume his as well.
It was in my intention to bring her here. Although it seems that during my time of indisposement, someone or something convinced her to go to Mr. Vsevolod.
Now, let's He holds up a hand. Let's continue the narrative. And he begins walking away again. So, while you're here, beneath the entirety of Manhattan, was that right? Yes. Far underground. Exactly how was the Samitsi living so far underground? Beneath Central Park.
In a big mansion.
A big mansion.
Like one of those like one of those things you see out of old horror movies. Frankenstein and that stuff.
So, deep, far underground. In the Zamitsi's mansion. Because that makes sense. Speaking with one Sevalod Cerveni. He asked you if you would be so kind as to bring Leslie Cutter to him in exchange for him, I suppose, not releasing all of this information pertaining to your criminal violations of the Masquerade.
That is the gist of it.
And you said he gave you some sort of artifact so that you could find her.
I believe so, yes. He gave it specifically to Jermaine, so I don't know what it does.
Right. And then you all carried on your merry ways. Back to the surface of the ground. Back to Manhattan. And you went searching for this Leslie Cutter. And naturally, of course, naturally. He turns away, continues walking. You found her in the church of your Malkavian friend, Joseph. He wheels around again. Is that right?
Yes.
Question. Once you all had collectively found Leslie Cutter, why didn't you bring her here? Or detain her, or tie her up, or send her into torpor, or essentially any means of fulfilling the request that Archon Theo Bell personally made, along with myself?
Truthfully, I believe we were preparing to do that when the Sabbat attack happened.
Is that right?
Out of character, I don't know how long it was between when we found her and the Sabbat attack happened.
It was like an hour.
So Marcus might be lying a little bit here, but I'm not going to rescind what I said.
Alright. I want you to give me a manipulation plus subterfuge. Resisted roll at difficulty 6.
Three successes?
Let me go ahead and roll the sheriffs. Sheriff stops walking. The head rotates to look at Byron. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, what Marcus has said is essentially true. I don't see anything wrong with what he said.
So, as soon as you three, Kindred, Marcus, Byron, and Joseph, along with your mercenary ghoul Jermaine, found Leslie Cutter, you were immediately attacked by Sabbat in Flushing, Queens.
This is, well, oh, all right. Marcus, you can talk. I was going to go.
No, please continue.
All right. Yes, we had just arrived back at the church, and we were actually in the process of discussing what to do with Leslie Cutter, how to bring her to you, and whatnot when the Sabbat attacked. Oh, one thing. Can I roll an occult roll for figuring out what Leslie Cutter's extra power is, or do I just not know what that is at all with Byron, that chameleon ability?
Well, I explained it to you all last session.
Yeah, Cephalid actually told us.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so we do know. I didn't realize, I didn't remember. But Byron will say yes, and the ability, the one other thing I would add is the ability Leslie Cutter had that Byron wasn't, or that Marcus wasn't sure about, is the ability some gargoyles...
Visceratica.
Say what now?
Visceratica.
Okay, Visceratica. I believe that was the ability he was looking for, the discipline.
And now you're telling me that Leslie Cutter has the same powers that the Tremere creations, the gargoyles, have.
Byron will say yes. You want me to make a charisma versus whatever roll, he can do so.
No. So, as soon as you found Leslie Cutter, you were immediately attacked by Sabbat, whom I get it. How by chance hadn't they tried before? What were they really after?
We believe that they believe that the reason they were after us was Leslie.
So how did they find her?
We honestly have no idea.
Okay. You are going to have to make a manipulation plus subterfuge, resisted at difficulty 6. You're lying to him. She was sitting right out there in the open on the street to attract their attention.
2 successes?
You're not succeeding, man.
The sheriff again pauses, rotates his head to look at Byron. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Byron?
So I'm thinking. No.
I see. So, let us continue the narrative. He begins walking again. After you found this Leslie Cutter, whom the Archon personally asked for you to bring here, you were immediately beset by a Sabbat warpack who was, of course, apparently also to some extent interested in this Leslie Cutter as well, but you all managed to successfully fight them off. As well you should be able to, particularly you, Marcus, after all you've seen. The look that the sheriff gives Marcus is almost one of regret there, like how far you have fallen.
We eliminated a majority of the war pack. One escaped on foot.
How many attackers were there?
Out of character, I actually don't remember. I think it was 3 or 4.
It was 3.
There was 3 of them.
And you said this Leslie Cutter handled 3 all herself, but that's all of them, right?
That was me misspeaking earlier. I should have said 2.
Alright.
She killed one by herself. The second one I brought down into torpor. And then she, for whatever reason, decided to finish him off. The other one at this point was already busy running away. It was at this point that I was extremely famished and was liable to attack anything that looked edible. So I went off to try to feed. And that is when I became indisposed, as sometimes we do.
I see. So, one of the Sabbat war pack escaped back into the city.
I believe so.
Byron, were you famished?
I was not. I gave chase to the one along with Joseph that ran away, but neither of us were able to catch him.
I see. Right, the narrative. So, you all have successfully fought off the Sabbat pack. One, however, managed to escape. Marcus is currently indisposed due to surviving a very tough situation, but the others were not. But, so that still leaves us with... He begins counting on his fingers. The Ventrue, and the Malkavian. You can't really trust the Ghoul, except for the fact that you let him have this artifact that this Tzimisce gave him. So there were still 2 of you to finish the directive. He stops looking at his fingers, looks back up, towards Byron. So at what point did you decide that not bringing her here was a good idea?
When I returned to the church, Joseph had not yet returned, and so while I was not famished, I was definitely in need of replenishment after the battle. So I left Jermaine with Leslie and told her to watch her, and we were going to figure it out the next morning when the rest of the coterie could get together. I am not in the habit of making unilateral decisions for the group.
Evening.
Oh, evening. Sorry.
And what happened to Joseph?
Marcus
I do not know.
Marcus is honestly going to say, I do not know. After he ran off to catch the other, to attempt to catch the other Sabbat member, I lost track of him.
Byron will agree and say, yes, he was not there when I left.
So, you 3 kindred, united together in one coterie, within the span of a single night, managed to encounter a Tzimisce autarchus living in a mansion beneath the city of New York, below Central Park itself. You managed to find Leslie Cutter, what we asked of you to do. You managed to fight a Sabbat war pack and only leave one survivor to escape into the city. You managed to leave Leslie Cutter alone with a ghoul, and then you misplaced Leslie Cutter when the ghoul took her beneath Central Park.
That sums it up quite nicely.
Kadir shifts his head, looks over at Marcus. Did I miss anything?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. There's a long pause. The sheriff actually begins pacing again. By this point, the undershirt of the suit has come off as well and is being draped over his suit jacket, leaving him bare-chested. I do not know where to begin, which lie I wish to unravel first. He gestures with one hand, and with the other, or and he stops. He just lets out a long sigh. You do realize that deception to the sheriff of New York City, the highest authority of the Camarilla, of which you are all a part, currently in said city, in domains in said city, is not the best unlife choice you have ever made, right?
Yes.
Let's try this again. He quickly advances. Would you two like to make any amendments to what you have told me?
The amount of time between when we found Leslie Cutter and the Sabbat attack was not immediate. It was almost an hour long.
Yeah, Byron will sigh and say, yes, I was actually downstairs in the chapel or wherever the heck the David had stored. And when I came to the top, Leslie was sitting out front of the church, and I believe that might be what brought the Sabbat there. I was not there for that decision, and Marcus may know more about what was going on with that.
From what I can remember, Jermaine and Joseph were talking with her. Like, this is out of character. I actually don't remember sort of what was going on during that hour.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, there was a time where Byron had tried to talk to her, and she delivered some scathing insults, and Jermaine and Joseph were pretty much lounging about, but eventually there was an attack. It transpired.
Yeah, I basically, yeah, just basically. It appears that we were trying to convince her to come here or tell her of her options, I suppose. I can't say for sure what Joseph and Jermaine were talking about with her. I was not nearby at the time. Which I believe is also true because I think I left the chapel itself.
I see. So, you were trying to convince her to come here of her own free will. I understand that at the same time. He quirks his head. There were 3 of you, 4 of you wish to count your ghoul. He gives you a perplexed look.
Yes, there were 3 of us, and I suppose if all of us agreed on taking her here, we would have been able to.
Byron will cut in and say, not without losses, probably.
Miss Cutter apparently is quite I'm not going to say powerful, but what she has at her disposal is quite potent.
I see.
And again, I do not believe that I do not believe the entirety of the coterie agreed in taking her here. Joseph's loyalties have been brought into question before, but I believe he would agree with us in bringing her here before taking her to Vecephalot.
Stop. He lifts a hand, and the pacing stops, and he does approach quickly. Joseph's loyalties have been called into question. He lowers his head, creeps closer. What do you mean by that?
It was Joseph's original, I believe it was Joseph's original idea to turn her over to the Anarchs, yes? Unless I'm misremembering that session. I could totally be misremembering that session.
No, he totally did. We left her there, and then he went to her later that night and convinced her to go to the
Right.
Anarch.
You guys had a little information revelation the last time you spoke with the sheriff whenever Theo Bell was around. Perhaps the sheriff was just interested in learning more.
Yeah, out of character, Byron at the last conversation said we. He never mentioned Joseph personally, so keep that in mind.
Right.
Well, I'm not going to take back what I said.
No, it wasn't. I'm just saying that it's the sheriff is adding more stuff up. Just
So you said that not all of you in the coterie of 3 were in agreement. I mean,
The only thing we 3 agreed with was not to take her to Vecephalot. That I am entirely 100% sure of.
So then your choice was clear of taking her to Elysium, then, right?
That would have been the correct action. Unfortunately, I believe we made a lot of mistakes last night.
Is there anything you wish to add, Byron?
no. Except that when I left Leslie Cutter, I was pretty sure I warned her against taking any action going to the Tzimisce, telling her that probably such action would be worse than death. I was fairly confident she would stay and Jermaine would watch her.
Out of curiosity, when did the 3 of you actually plan on bringing her here?
I figured it would be right now.
Either that or as soon as everyone was replenished with blood after the fight. That was when I was going to intend to do it, but as such things happen, you have to put plans on hold.
So, just to recap here. The 3 of you, vampires, kindred, he snarls out, members of the Camarilla, left Leslie Cutter alone with an independent ghoul mercenary that none of you can trust, that you all hired, and he took her to the Tzimisce.
I believe that is the gist of it.
Out of curiosity, how do you know that none of this information you were apparently persuaded with is ever going to see the light of day?
We have only the word of the Tzimisce through the now known untrustworthy Ghoul.
Congratulations. Byron has completely dumbfounded the sheriff into speechlessness. He even looks like his eyes are wide, the jaw unhinges and drops a little bit, He looks bewildered and confused at Byron.
Byron will go on because, why not? He'll say, this is the entire reason that I was not going to take the agreement with the Tzimisce, and I was also going to bring Leslie Cutter to you. We cannot trust anyone involved, and I would much rather put my faith in the Camarilla in this. It is regretful that things have turned out the way they have.
He cannot come up with words.
DeMarcus is correct. Marcus is staying silent.
Yeah, now.
Good job. You've taken the heat off me.
I cannot begin to fathom how any of you have ever been remotely successful at all in the entirety of your lives or unlives. You have two options. Your first option is to make up for all of your lies and your foolishness and your trust of a mercenary independent ghoul and your incomprehensible, ineffable stupidity is to bring Leslie Cutter here. No more excuses. Considering how much you've lied to me, I can't even begin to fathom how much of your fairy tales are truth and untruth. Your second option, should you choose to refuse the first, is to kill me right now and somehow flee from New York City with your unlives.
Byron will put up the hand and say, to which lies are you referring? The only thing that was the least bit inaccurate from what we've told you tonight is the space of time between the Sabbat attack and finding Leslie Cutter.
All it takes is one lie, and that's totally
For the
valid.
second time this encounter, you have rendered the sheriff completely flummoxed and incapable of speech, as he stares once again a little slack-jawed at Byron.
I believe the only option we have left is to try to acquire Leslie Cutter. Although I fear this will end in our deaths just as easily as it would be if we attempted to try and fight you.
The sheriff, with measured slowness, swivels his head from Byron to Marcus. And at this point, take a 5-minute break.
Oh, Grimith, can I ask you to delete those ghost tokens?
Sure, after the 5-minute
I
break.
can't rename the ones until they're gone.